Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
She's here to help you out with energy healing, specifically Reiki and also chakras. We're going to dig a little deeper into that. But before we get there, we have to introduce her. Annie Baker Atwood is back with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great to
I'm having a beautiful time up here in Maine. My Reiki studio is just a very soothing place, whether you are in person or online. So definitely reach out and book an appointment.
And what I love about what you offer is not just the energy healing, but it's also healing in different ways, even up here. So today we're going to talk about why it's so hard to ask for help. Can you help me out with that?
Yes, and we're going to tie it into the chakra system. So before I dive into why it's so hard to ask for help, because that's more of a up here, I want to talk about what the chakras are. So chakras are energy systems similar to rest stops along a highway. So if you're driving on the New Jersey Turnpike and your little gas is getting low, you pull into a rest stop to fill up your tank, but you don't stay there for very long. You just fill up your tank and then you get back going. So chakras are those tanks, and they hold and move and store energy. They've been described a lot of different ways, but the way I visualize them, here's my little, is like one of these little, ornaments that's clear. And this particular one has Legos in it.
Okay.
Because I know, this is where the kindergarten teacher and having boys who loved Legos. They made this as a Christmas gift or a holiday gift for all of their teachers, which was super cute.
I just want to jump in and say, if you have kids that like or liked Legos, how many times did you step on one of the pieces on the floor and be like,
or find them in the washer?
Yeah, and that, yeah.
It was the saddest day when I didn't find Legos in the washer anymore. It was really like, oh.
And I recently moved, and my son was like, he said, can I just want to save everything I got there. And it was like so much stuff, but I was like, I'm not getting rid of it. Probably could sell it, but no, save a little longer.
Nope. And the reason I choose Legos is energy is the building block of everything, and it never really goes away. So you start with, well, here's an example of how Lego actually did it, where they gave you a little picture of what you were supposed to build. My sons didn't do that, but you start with the raw materials and your desired and intended outcome. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't because you didn't follow the directions. But you can always take it apart and try again, or take the Legos apart, build something totally different, or take the Legos apart and put them into a bin for later. The Legos haven't gone away, as we know by stepping on them and finding them in the washer. But same as energy doesn't go away, but you just use it differently depending on what it is you need. So the chakras would hold different things to build with your energy. And I'm going to use my little bear. Here's my little bear, this little USA bear. Your root chakra is right in between your hips, and your root chakra stores and generates all of your being able to be fully present, which if you are an athlete, you want to make sure that this chakra is clear. Csikszentmihalyi called it flow, where you are absolutely performing. You are in your proximal zone of development. You are absolutely, not trying too hard, not trying too less, just in the zone. And as an athlete, if you are in between, races, because I'm a sailor, or in between meets or, events running, if you just clear this energy center, you bring back more power to you.
Wow. So would you say that that is a very important chakra?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is often one that gets gunked up, especially with women, because we tend to store a lot of other people's energy in the root chakra because we feel that we're responsible for their security. And when they're babies, we are. And that's not a bad thing. It just means keep the Legos current. Just because you built that structure 30 years ago when you had your first baby doesn't mean that you have to keep that structure. You can undo it. You can make a new structure. You can upgrade, refresh. It doesn't mean that you're broken.
Got questions
Yeah.
based on that chakra, or I guess chakras in general. When they're filled up, almost visualize, that Christmas ornament, and they're filled up. They could have gotten filled up from years ago, and you're just carrying it with you. Then you can't put any more energy in there.
It's very gunky.
Yeah.
It's like driving into the sun with your windshield on the outside and it has dust on it. You don't realize how blocked it is until you're in certain situations. And so maybe you clear the outside with your, windshield, but then all of a sudden you notice how dirty the inside is too. So with chakras, going back to my little model here, the outside is other people's thoughts, which aren't always true. They're not necessary, but maybe you remember, your first grade teacher saying, wow, you're having a tough time learning how to read. And she's making a statement and you take that as a value of.
I already have that one. I can tell you, I was in 10th grade and my art teacher told me, because I couldn't paint, I'm very much into art and graphics, and I couldn't paint the sky the way I wanted it. And she said, "You're an underachiever."
What?
Teacher said that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, with her coffee breath. But you know what? I appreciated her saying that because it always stuck with me, and I always tried to overachieve.
Yes.
I got some chakra clearing to do.
Yeah, and that's something that somebody said to you. So that's on the outside. If you decided to internalize that, that would have to be cleaned on, these do come apart, but that would make a big crash on the inside.
Wow.
So yeah, and they're two different processes. And it's important to know, just like when you, clean your glasses, you have to clean this side and this side in order for it to enhance your ability to see. And so each chakra, you want to make sure that you're cleaning, I call it my, spiritual Windex, and I scrubby dub it, the outside and the inside. And the first time that you have that done, I would have it done. And I'm fantastic at it. You don't even know, you're probably asleep by that point. But same as if your house is in a total disarray and then someone comes and does a professional clean, it's a lot easier to maintain it. So I would really recommend a professional cleaning, clearing of your chakras once a year.
How would you know that initially you need a cleaning? Is it just you just don't feel right? You don't feel
you're sluggish. You don't feel right. Things annoy you that you're kind of like, wow, that was an offhand comment that somebody made, and that really made me grumpy. Or you start to remember Like when was the last time you thought about that 10th grade teacher?
It's been a long time until you brought it up.
Right, exactly. So something I brought up, we call it trigger, or, brought that statement up for release. It's kind of like going through a file cabinet. You're like, wow, I really don't need taxes from 1992 because that was 30 years ago. Let me clear it so that I can clear up some space.
You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you remember back in the day with computers and you needed to defrag them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now that it's done automatically, but you need to either schedule a defrag or manually do it. And basically what it was is all the bytes and information on your hard drive get defragmented in different spots. And this almost sounds like you need to defrag yourself and move things where they need to be, or get rid of them.
Yes, absolutely. And it as you go through, something that was last week gets cleared pretty quickly. But the ones that are really deep-seated, so statements that were made or experiences that you had in your first 6 years, those ones can be a little more embedded because any memory that has an emotion attached to it is stickier, right? It's going to stick to either the outside or the inside of your chakra. And so it takes a little extra scrubbing to unstick it.
So interestingly, I look at this, Annie, comparing it to, let's say, hypnotherapy, where that can be effective in helping you heal and get rid of some of that stuff from your past. But going through that, it's not a bad thing. It can be a little emotional, when you're taken back to a certain time. But it sounds like with Reiki and chakra clearing that you don't even know it's being done. You're just chilling and you're doing all the work and you just sit
a
in
lot of
sleep.
girls do cry, especially the backs of your knees they really hold on to grief. And so if there's stuck grief, and it can be grief about anything, it can be grief about a loved one dying, it can be grief about knowing that you're not going to have the future that you anticipated, either because of an accident. If you are an athlete and you have the type of accident where your spinal cord is compromised, you need to grieve that. Brain injuries, you need to grieve that you are no longer your identity. And as I said, your personal narrative is, a habit, and habits can be changed. But that's a hard one because it happened so fast to become a new habit, and it generally isn't welcomed.
Same thing with some relationships, and maybe the relationship changed. It could have been a long-term relationship and changed quick. And maybe blindsided. You didn't know it was coming. There's a grieving process involved.
Yes. And where it lands in your chakras, that chakra just gets a little cloudier, and I can feel it when I'm running my patterns. So here's my little bear again. So if your heart chakra, which is your ability to choose joy and feel neither superior nor inferior to anyone, if that's having a lot of use, shall I say, it needs more energy first. And then I always take mental notes when I'm scanning. I would know, okay, that's going to need a deeper clean. The gut chakra is, I trust my gut. And that one, when you are meeting a lot of people, can get really clogged. So anyone going off to college, that one gets clogged pretty quickly. because you're making a decision about a lot of people very quickly. You know, how do I feel around this person? And for many, it's the first time they've been in a more diverse population, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's backgrounds, however. So certain things can just sit in your gut chakra. And that one, because it's pretty new, if you're going off to college, it's more adding energy than clearing the energy, which are, you know, it's just, okay, yeah, you exhausted that energy center. That snack machine is done.
Does the gut chakra have another name? I don't know if I've ever heard it called the gut chakra. No? Which one is that?
Probably, but I've always just called it the gut chakra.
I'd rather call it that because it
I
says
mean, let me just show you one thing here. Somebody said, what is the difference between Reiki 1 and 2 and a Reiki master? And so these were my 2 manuals for Reiki 1 and 2. And I knew everything in them. And that represents 4 days. And then this is my manual for Reiki master. And so I need to know everything in my binder in order to be able to do what I do. So you don't need a Reiki master to strengthen your chakras, but it is quicker. I can do it more quickly to clear them.
so. Just a quick question on the gut chakra. If your gut chakra is mucked up, can that also mean that you don't interpret or trust your gut feeling as well as you should? Like you get confused messages and it's just, you know, it could be clearer.
And people say, always trust your gut, always trust your gut. And we tend to override it because we want to be nice. We want to be polite. We don't want to, you know, have an awkward social situation. But really, even if you need to, you know, kind of put a force field around you, if somebody is making you uncomfortable right in the pit of your stomach, take note, because there's something about your energies that are not compatible. And another person may not react that way. That's what's so interesting. And you see it with, say, narcissistic relationships, where like I get particularly did until I learned how to resolve that. You know, went into I'm going to rescue this person, you know, I'm going to feel so good that they want to be rescued. And I take on all this energy to, you know, free them up. And they're like, that's great. I don't want to be rescued, but here, you can lug that stuff around. You can take on that debt. And so if it doesn't feel right, it's not right.
I know we have things we want to talk to, but I'm big on the gut. I'm big on the gut feeling. So tell me what you feel when you have a gut feeling, good or bad.
When I have a good gut feeling, I make a decision so quickly. I don't even have to think. Here's an example. Yesterday, a post came up about 2 dogs that needed a home. And I said, I want them. And they're coming next week.
Wow.
I know. But it was completely aligned. It was the perfect situation. It was exactly what I wanted.
And by the way, I just want to say that somebody has always told me that, and I'm trying to align with it, that go with the first thing you think of. first feeling you get, because that is the positive gut feeling. If you start overthinking it, that other stuff is going to come in the way. And then I've also heard it described as, if it's a lighter feeling, that's you're going with your gut, and that's the right one. If it feels heavy and kind of, I don't know, it's just you're carrying something, just don't do that. Bad idea.
Yeah, and it's also part of your heart, which is I choose joy. And your throat, I speak kindly to myself and others. So if you're overthinking it, you're probably using a lot of your voice, and you're either trying to justify it one way or another. And if you're
And it's
trying to,
probably the wrong choice anyway,
yeah,
right?
and there are some times where you don't have you're, especially in school, you don't have a choice. But if you are trying to justify something a lot,
Mm.
especially about a decision, that's where my phrase, I'm practicing self-care by not making a decision right now. And it buys me time to really drop into my body and say, where is this resistance coming from? Because when you tense up, that's just resistance. Is it resistance from, somebody's overlay that they put on me? The one that my father put on me is I wouldn't ever have money on my own. I had to be married to have money. So in starting a business, I had a lot of resistance around, how does this work? And so the decision to start a business felt right, but it still felt scary. And so I had to kind of dive in and say, well, there's really no evidence that I don't know how to do this. So that was somebody else's. And the way I think about it is, if it's somebody else's thought, it's like a sticky note. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody sticky note the outside windshield of a car. And they just sticky note the whole thing. That's what I think about when I think about other people's ideas sticking to me, is literally a sticky note. And they're a nuisance, but they're not, it's not paint.
And it's not permanent. You can just peel it off.
Yeah. Yeah. And so sometimes your sticky notes are on the outside, and sometimes they're on the inside. I had an inside one of I couldn't run. And that was, in high school, I was not good at running. And so when someone said, oh, you should run a marathon, my immediate reaction was, I can't do that. I'm not Bill Rogers. She was like, well, you're really consistent, and start with a half marathon. And I was like, oh. So I did, ran the half marathon. And then there was a TV show a while ago called Biggest Loser, and they ran a marathon. So I was like, well, then they ran a marathon, I can run a marathon. And I really was able to say, okay, it actually was consistent action. There was a training plan. And I wasn't attached to a time. So my goal was to finish injury free.
What did your gut tell you in the very beginning?
It said, yeah, it's okay.
Do it. Yeah.
Just do it. And that's an old story.
So I don't want to run out of time, but we did say we're going to talk about why it's so hard
to ask for help. And it's hard to ask for help because you're in your head and you're overthinking things. And also because we've been raised that being self-sufficient is, the way to go. And that's, the best thing ever. But if you're self-sufficient, it's limiting. You can be self-sufficient and have a capacity of this, but then if you add a team, you expand. So if my chakras decided that they wanted to be self-sufficient, and each one would only talk to themselves and not work together, it's a very disjointed feeling. There's no energetic flow. And it's the same with your hormones. Your hormones are meant to work as a team. Your chakras are meant to work as a team. And if they're out of balance, we don't have any problem going to a doctor to fix it, but we do have, the sense that we shouldn't be asking our friends and family to help us get into alignment. Like, we want to outsource that. And the fact is, initially, having someone help you is really useful when you are, moving. Having someone help you move those boxes into your house makes it a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be the one unpacking them, but getting that help initially is something that we want to say, oh, I can do it myself. And that's really a limiting factor that I'm finding out about myself, that I don't have to do it by myself. I can accept help. And it's not a sign of not being smart, not being capable. It's simply, this person has the capability to build a website much faster than I do.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And you never know what's going to happen. Over the weekend, I have a 20-year-old junky Jeep. I got it just to carry my kayaks, and I don't have to worry about it. And I was pulling out of a parking lot on a hill heading toward traffic, and my brakes failed. So I luckily turned quick and pulled back into the parking lot and didn't go into the road. And I called a friend of mine who he works with cars. I've known him for years. We see each other every once in a while. I was just asking for his advice. If I get brake fluid, can I still drive it? There is a reserve, and you can carefully navigate somewhere. He's like, you know what? I'm not far away. I'll come by. I'm like, you don't have to do that. No, I'm coming by. So he comes by. We deal with it. But he was also dealing with a major relationship situation at that time, just the other day. Still ongoing. Don't know where it's going to go. Kind of So we both spoke about it, and then we both talked about each other's situation. And it was almost like the universe needed him to come by. I needed him. We kind of,
Yes.
yeah, there's a reason. You never know unless you ask.
Yeah. And somehow we got in our heads that it's bad to need something. Do you need it? Do you want it? And that wanting something, is a luxury item. It's like, no, you can need and want both to receive support, receive help. And for the most part, people say, of course, I'd be more than happy to do that. Or if they can't, they'll say, I'm not available right now.
Right.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Just ask. It's all right. Even ask for a sign. I'm a big believer in that. You need a sign from the universe. You need a sign from somebody on the other side, whether you believe, that's your choice. I've done it. I've gotten it. And I'm very skeptical, but I know that they were legit. And I can show and give examples. Don't need to, but it's okay to ask. Even somebody told me the other day, you're going to go to bed and you think about something, ask for the dream. Like, I want to think about this. I want to dream about this tonight, because you're unlocking your subconscious, and you might get the answer when you wake up.
Yes. Yes. My dream last night was I couldn't find my coffee filters. Now I'm extremely careful about where my coffee filters are. And the sign is, it's okay to shift stuff and change.
Yeah. Yep. I couldn't find my passport.
Did you ever find it?
I did. Yeah. And I asked a friend who's a psychic, and she told me where it was.
Was it in the glove box?
No. I know we're out of time, but she said it's in a box. And I had just moved. I'm like, oh, great. It's in a box. And that's real good. Of course, this box is around. Well, guess what? It was in a metal strong box in my office right over there that contained my mother's paperwork from back in the day. I had been in that metal box 3 times already, turned this whole place upside down, couldn't find it. And because I thought more about it, I'm like, you know what? Something drove me right to that metal strong box. I opened it up. It was a manila envelope I thought I had looked in, but I didn't. There it was.
It is.
But guess what? I asked for help from a psychic. Don't laugh. And
Yes.
I got my answer and I got my passport. So now I can go on
Yeah,
vacation.
there you go. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. So listen, you need to feel better and clear out your chakras. Well, ask Annie for help. She is
Right.
available.
Yes, I can clean chakras. I can really, really do that. I'm an expert at that.
She doesn't do bathrooms. She doesn't do bathrooms, but she will do chakras. So she's available to help you out there. And just go to the website, redbootsreiki.com. I don't know where the time goes when we talk. It's just like we're way over time and it's just like whatever, but it just kind of goes. Thanks for everything today.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it. And looking forward to getting together again with you sometime soon and clearing
Next
chakras.
week.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.